International Media TV, television that listens to you.
Hi, I'm Johnnie Burrell. Welcome to the program.
I like it when you can sum up a whole period in just 2 words. We won. See, I like that. I like that. Makes it easy. And I know we're in the Bay Area, so we'll have to have some criticism. But if we had lost, y'all have been sad for like 20 years. So we can be happy for a month. So I'm happy. We won, and now the work starts. We won, and now the work starts. The problem in 2008 was we thought that 2008 was a finish line, and it was just a starting line. And we went from Hopi to mopey in about half an hour, and let crazy people take over the national discourse, and let crazy people take over Congress, and then we had to have a nail biter on an election that should have been a walkover. So if you don't want to let down, there can't be a let up. No let up now going forward. Let me just tell you the bullet we dodged, and let me tell you what I think we have to do. First of all, let's just be real clear. I'm happy that Obama won. A good dose of happy. But I'm ecstatic that the haters lost. See, I'm ecstatic about that. That's actually, in the immediate sense, more important. Because what if they had won? What if they had won? What country would you be living in? Imagine 4 years of obstruction, 4 years of lying, 4 years of cheating, 4 years of trying to suppress the vote, 4 years of more than $1 billion being put against someone, 4 years of a 24-hour propaganda attack machine, cranking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, except for leap year. Then it's 366. Right. Imagine if those tactics of lying and smearing had actually prevailed. How do you raise children in a country where the liars and the cheaters win? This election wasn't just about left versus right. It was about right versus wrong. Imagine if you had a lifeguard. Let's just keep it real for a second. I want you to understand the bullet you just dodged. Imagine if you had a lifeguard on a beach. And this stings a little bit because of what happened with Sandy, but stay with me now. Imagine if you had a lifeguard on a beach and a disaster came. A tsunami came. And there were thousands of people drowning. Thousands of people struggling, barely able to hang on. And imagine you had a lifeguard that was doing his best every day to save those lives, to respond to that crisis, and to make a difference. Now, may not be the best lifeguard in the world. Maybe young and new at the job. Maybe he makes some mistakes. Maybe he's got big ears and a funny name. I don't know. Imagine a lifeguard, though, trying. And then imagine you got another group of people who could help, but won't. Who actually stand back and not only let the crisis happen, but refuse to do anything to stop the suffering. Imagine if they said to themselves, now hold on a second. We could throw a rope. We won't do it. In fact, when the lifeguard throws a rope, cut it. Because the more bodies that pile up on the beach, the more dead bodies that pile up on the beach, the more likely it is that they're going to fire this lifeguard and we can get the lifeguard's job. Imagine if those people were now your lifeguard. Imagine if that kind of treachery and dishonesty had paid off. This is not hyperbole. The Republican Party would not pass their own bills. Let the bodies pile up on the beach. Obama said, look, 98% tax cuts for 98% of Americans. They wouldn't pass tax cuts. Republicans wouldn't pass tax cuts. Why? Because it might give some relief to the American people. Obama said we're going to put tax cuts in place for small businesses. Republicans refused to pass tax cuts for small businesses for 2 years. Let the bodies pile up on the beach. Obama put forward a bill to help veterans coming home. They blocked veteran support. Every single part of their agenda that the president, trying to reach out, said he was willing to pass, they voted against their own agenda to hurt this country. They said the economic pain in the country is key to our political gain. Let the bodies pile up on the beach. Now, your country had to make a decision. Do you reward treachery? Do you reward treachery? Biggest economic crisis since the Great Depression, 2 wars, daily threat from hostile terrorist interests, a big ecological crisis. 20 million Americans who used to be in the middle class fell over into poverty on top of the existing poor. You are not going to have more crisis in the country and more objective need for us to put our differences aside. And you had an entire political party. Don't talk about the Tea Party. The entire Republican caucus said they would refuse to help. You had an entire news network that spent 24 hours a day putting marbles on the stairs for a president, banana peels on the sidewalk for a president. And I'm going to say this about him. This is just a subtle hint to any of you guys have any right-wing cousins that pollute your Facebook page. If your news source is actually named after a sneaky predatory mammal, that's actually the name of your news source. A mammal famous for being untrustworthy around the chickens and just, I don't want to mention Fox by name, but I'm just saying that if that's the name of your news source, you might get the sneaking suspicion that you should maybe diversify. But what if that had succeeded? The good thing is that it didn't. It failed. They threw everything they had, all the money, all the lies. They tried to suppress the vote, and they lost. Now, that is a real victory, but it's not change. You see what I'm saying? That's a real victory, but it's not change. It's a real victory that creates the potential for change. It keeps alive the possibility of change, but it's not change. And so for African Americans in the Democratic Party, we actually have reason for joy and sorrow. In Ohio, where we finally put the nail in the coffin, African Americans turned out in larger numbers in 2012 than in 2008, showing a level of political sophistication that is rare in American politics. In other words, economically, we were worse off in 2012 than we were in 2008, but politically, we were more engaged because we understood that there was more at stake than just the immediate economic situation of the country. It was a long-term trajectory of the country we had to take care of. In other words, had the African American community just done the marvelous work it did in 2008, Mitt Romney would have won Ohio. And we have a very different scenario right now, conceivably. So on the one hand, reason for joy. But on the other hand, reason for sorrow. Where is the African American community, not politically, but economically now? We can talk about this now, is he? Election's over. We can have a real conversation. The African American community has fallen off the table. We are in the very dangerous situation now of being indispensable politically for the governing coalition, but irrelevant from a policy point of view. I hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. I'm talking about the Democratic Party. Indispensable politically. 92, 96%. The Democratic Party cannot win a national election without overwhelming support from the black community. And yet, what is the Democratic Party's agenda for black America? Can national Democrats even say the word black? Can they say the word African American? This is a dangerous situation for a community. Our wealth has been demolished by 80%. Why is that? The housing crisis. Now, those of you who are new to our community, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's not really a secret, but you may not connect with these dots. Have you ever noticed when an African American person makes it, I don't know, maybe they get an NBA contract, something like that. They never come out to press conference and say, I want to get my mama some stocks and bonds. You never notice that? They never say that. I'm so happy I got this gazillion-dollar contract. Mama, I'm buying you some stocks and bonds. Now that would probably be an intelligent thing to say. We don't do that. What do we say? Say, Mama, I'm going to buy you a... And maybe a car. Especially now Oprah be giving out the cars, so everybody got to throw the car in now. But it's always a house. It's always a house. You know why? Because for the black middle class, running numbers, there was a stigma associated with that. And there was an association, the stock market, with running numbers, with gambling. And also there was a prohibition against us having property. And so it's deeply, deeply rooted in the black community, especially the black middle class, home ownership, property ownership, as the secure pillar for the black middle class. Almost all of our wealth building strategy built around home ownership, devastated in 2008, 2009. 80% of our wealth wiped out. We're back to a wealth position of 1968 when Dr. King was killed, wiped out, 14 months. What is the Democratic Party's agenda to remedy that? I don't tell anybody here, the brother did a good job talking about it. Still profiteering off of black bodies. Michelle Alexander calls it the new Jim Crow. African American and Latino and other poor folk are locked up in counties far from where they are, where their families are. Our young men and young women get counted as part of the population in the prison counties, even though they can't vote there and don't have family there. So the prison counties actually get to count our folk politically, make money off our folk economically, and then send our folk home broken spiritually. When I got out of law school in 1993, 1 million people behind bars. Bill Clinton came in 1992, 1 million. He left 2000, 2 million. Now almost 2.5 million. Disproportionately black and brown and disproportionately doing stuff that you got students on this campus doing. Oh, I hope I didn't offend anybody. Hey, listen, y'all can't fool me. I went to Yale. We had nothing but nonviolent drug offenders in the undergraduate population at Yale. So you're not fooling me with what these middle class kids are doing. But they go to rehab. They go to rehab. I mean, I know. I'm a good Christian child. I didn't, but you know. But I had roommates and friends. Oh, Burrell! Hey, look, this man right here saved my life so many times. He was at Yale Law School when I got there. Now, this brother had gone to, I'm bragging on you, Bernie. This brother, first of all, he got there, he took over the law school instantly. Every professor, every young woman, totally Vernon Grigg fanatics. After he dominates the law school, he then goes to Israel, goes to South Africa, clerks for the Supreme Court in South Africa. They still working out apartheid. He over there running stuff. It was when he was a student. And he guided me every step of the way through Yale. Give Vernon Griggs a hand. Brother, this is an amazing brother right here. But Vernon can tell you, when we were at Yale, I know I'm off topic, but it's important to me. They had a building on the campus at Yale, and it was called mental hygiene. You can't make stuff up like that. And I said, what is mental hygiene? Hey, you flossing your brain. What are you? It's a rehab center on the campus. Because these rich kids were doing so many drugs and getting themselves in so much trouble, they had rehab on the campus. And if the kids got in too much trouble, you hit pause, they would just sort of disappear for a little while, go to Europe or something, come back, hit pause again, graduate. Those young people went on to become doctors, lawyers, in the case of George W. Bush, President of the United States. Okay? And it costs less to put those kids in rehab than to put our kids who 4 blocks away were doing the same drugs in less quantities in prison. So I'm not fooled. See, the thing, they should never let me go to Yale. They shouldn't let me work in the White House. They sure shouldn't put me on CNN because I'm just too crazy not to lie. I mean, I'm going to just tell the truth. We know what to do with these young men in trouble because we do it for rich folk kids. We know what to do when people have trauma and problems in their life because we do it for rich folk kids. We just won't do it for everybody's kids. And so you are called now to a deeper patriotism. See, I'm telling you, young black Democrats, I'm telling you, you have an unfair burden. And I'm not going to lie to you about it. You are now called to a deeper patriotism. So you could take all that and go negative and quit and give up and be mad. And you know who you would be insulting? Your grandparents' generation. My parents' generation. You know, I mean, I'm happy to see you guys enthusiastic. I meet a lot of young African Americans, they, you know, angry, arms folded up. Well, we voted for them, and then nothing changed. I say, you know, my dad's generation worked for change. They didn't vote one time and quit. Some of them got beaten fighting for change. They had dogs put on them fighting for change. Fire hoses put on them. Some went to jail fighting for change. Some were murdered, dead and gone, fighting for change. We got folk now that will quit over a really mean tweet. Am I wrong? I just can't go on. I just can't take it. It's just so hard. Starting line now. Starting line. Brother said 30-year cycle. A lot of it comes down to you. You now have to answer the call to a deeper patriotism. Who are the real patriots now? What's America going to be in this new century? Think about that. You have every color, every faith, every gender, every sexuality, every kind of human being ever born now lives in one country. It's a miracle in human history. A miracle. And we make it work every day. We mostly get along too. You got a few crazy mean people, but we mostly get along. But what kind of vision will hold that kind of country together? This cheaper patriotism from places like the Tea Party? Or a deeper patriotism? I think that African American young folks who are involved in politics have an unfair responsibility to stick up for the least of these and to stick up for our highest values and to actually make real these crazy slogans. Like, I don't know, liberty and justice for all. Remember that one? Look, man, that's a deep thing. Think about that now. Liberty and justice for all. Not liberty and justice for all except the gay folk. That's not what it says. And not just liberty, liberty, liberty. I love my friends in the Tea Party. I really do. They talk about liberty all the time. Listen, I'm black. You don't have to convince me nothing about liberty. I'm for it. I am for liberty. Trust me. Yeah, hey, listen, I could write, don't get, Ron Paul, trust me, I get the liberty thing. That's not a hard sell to black people. So, the problem is that the last word in the pledge isn't liberty. It's liberty and justice for all. Who is going to carry that vision forward if you don't? See, it's easy to sing America the Beautiful. Yeah. A lot harder to defend America's beauty against the clear cutters and the oil spillers and the mountaintop removers and the toxic waste dumpers and all those folks that Juliet Ellis and the good folks in the environmental justice community fight against. It's easy to sing America the Beautiful. Tough to defend America's beauty against the people who wanted to spoil it for money. See, that's deep patriotism. Deep patriotism. You don't just sing the song. You actually stick around for the fight. It's easy. It's cheap patriotism to run down to New York City and run out to see the Statue of Liberty. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I love to do that. Bring the kids. I love that. You got to do that. If you got children, you got to do it. But if that's all you do, that's cheap. If all you do is go down there and get a picture in front of the statue with your kids and then rush back to the hotel to post it on your Facebook page. Right? I just wanted my kids to see the beauty of America. If that's all you do, and you stop there, it's cheap patriotism. Read the inscription at the base of that statue. Give me your tired. Give me your poor. Give me your huddled masses who yearn to breathe free. You can't be an anti-immigrant bigot and a patriot at the same time. I'm sorry, that's not the way that it works. That's not the way that it works. That's cheap patriotism. Cheap patriotism. And so, in conclusion, I want to challenge you. We've got to celebrate this victory. This is a real victory. I mean, there's a tendency to want to just roll the credits right now. Have the Ewoks come out dancing, Any nerds? Any geeks? Ewoks? Anybody? Yeah. You know what I mean? You want to just say, well, we blew up the Death Star. Right? Here the Ewoks. Roll the credits. No. Now the fight begins. You young African American leaders, I'm talking to you, have a different future than I had. I was born in '68, brother. I was born the year they tried to kill hope in America. Huh? They shot Dr. King down the street like a dog. They shot Bobby Kennedy too. Equal opportunity hate spreaders and hope killers. They beat a bunch of young people, your age and younger, in the streets in Chicago because they wanted peace. Year I was born. They tried to kill hope in America in '68. We spent 40 years in the wilderness. From '68, 2008. 40 years before hope became a mass phenomenon again. 40 years. And in that whole time, the best of the activists were mainly preparing to protest. That was the mark, of a great activist. Were you on this picket line? Were you in this fight? Were you in this struggle? Were you opposing this? Were you opposing that? Were you prepared to protest? Y'all have to prepare to govern. You have to prepare to govern. It's a completely different set of opportunities and responsibilities. Mandela came out of prison, and he told the young activists, the militants in Umkhonto weSizwe, and I don't want to get it wrong, brother. If I do, correct me offline, Vernon, because he will stand up. Spirit of the nation, Umkhonto weSizwe, am I right? But when Mandela came out, he told the young people, you've been preparing to be a part of the opposition. This is the time for proposition. He said, you've been preparing to protest injustice. Now you have to prepare to govern justly. And there is a majority governing coalition that held, brother. Was 2008 the fluke? Or was 2010? Is America Obama's America or the Tea Party's? That question has been answered. But now you have the responsibility to govern justly. And that requires you to have a bigger heart for your country than the people who call themselves patriots. Because if all you do, by the way, is stick up for people who look just like you, no better than them. And if you're too scared to stick up for people who look just like you, you're worse than them. So you have to have a vision of America that includes not only Pookie and Snoopy, who've been left out and need a champion and need an agenda and not just the opportunity to vote over and over again and get nothing out of it. So you have a responsibility to them. But you also have a responsibility to Joe Sixpack, who has nothing, who's out there in Appalachia, seeing his world fall apart too. See, you have to be the people who say, I can see an America that works for everybody and where everybody can work, you see. You have to have an agenda that big and a heart that open. You're lucky to be here in San Francisco where you have leaders like Amos Brown that have been preaching that from the pulpit for 40 years out here, so you're prepared. There's moral leadership here. But don't hide your light under a bushel. Be the deep patriots and stand up for liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
That was amazing. The responsibility to govern. And before we end, we have USF students and some choral fellows here in the back. We're going to allow 2 or so questions from the audience, from USF students and choral fellows. So. Or not. You got, somebody's got to.
Can you hand the mic to the person?
Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Veronica Shepard. I work in the Bayview Hunters Point community. I was born and raised in the Bayview Hunters Point community, and I grew up in the 1950s in the Bayview Hunters Point community, so I've seen a lot of change. I have been inspired by you. I work with the Department of Public Health, and I'm at the grassroots. I'm at the housing meetings, fighting, listening to developers who want to put people in our community in boxes to live in that feel voiceless. I'm talking to men and women who have been arrested multiple times and have skills to work but can't get jobs. I meet with men and women who are just trying to get health care services. The job is huge. I work 90% of my time for free because it's in my heart to do. I would like to know, how do you come together with so much power that is in this room? Because when I walk out of this door, I go back out alone. And I go back to those men and women that just want to be in our fine, dear city. What kind of advice can you give me to take back to so many men and women that I work with that are fighting just to be? Thank you.
Well, I would be quite foolish to try to advise you, honestly. You need to be advising us at the national level. It's so interesting to me how much wisdom and genius and grace there is at the grassroots level. Then you go to Washington, D.C., and they're stuck on stupid, engaging in food fight politics over real simple stuff. I'm like, y'all can't figure out how to not blow up the economy? Like, we have harder problems than that before breakfast at the grassroots level. And I think there's too much national groups trying to tell local groups what to do and think. I think it actually needs to be going the other direction a lot more. That said, I am a part of an organization. It's called Rebuild the Dream. We have 600,000 members. We're in every congressional district. I'd love to have you be a part of what we're doing. We are going to do a big push. It turned out that there was a reason that there was this mythology about an enthusiasm gap. Remember that? How they have these little buzzwords and then they just disappear? But they said there was going to be an enthusiasm gap. And the Republicans were so much more enthusiastic about Romney. Remember that? Than you were about Obama. And therefore, Romney was gonna be neck and neck. You remember this? You guys have TVs. It was, right? Remember this? Because they say this ignorant stuff. and then they just act like they never said it. All right. But see, I got a long memory. I can remember all the way back to 2 weeks ago when you were supposed to be too ignorant to go vote and too depressed and too demoralized. And, am I right, Reverend? That's right. And the Romney's people were supposed to be so excited that we're going to go in neck and neck, it was going to be a blowout. That wasn't just Fox. That was across the board. But there was a reason that enthusiasm gap kept showing up. It was really three things. First of all, grassroots folks very smart. But if you ask them, are you enthusiastic about voting in 2012? They're going to say no. Why? Because they're comparing it to 2008. The high water mark of enthusiasm for the whole human family was 2008, right? You never going to be that enthusiastic again in life. If Oprah Winfrey president, you're not going to be that enthusiastic. So compared to 2008, no, you're not enthusiastic. Number two, when they call black folk to poll us, it says blocked, we say bill collector. Am I wrong? Has anybody answered a block call in the past 4 years? No. So you can't find us to poll us for nothing. And then these young people have cell phones. They've never seen a phone with a wire on it except to plug into the wall to recharge, and they don't call people with cell phones. So they totally missed this freight train. Yeah. That was coming. Underestimated us. And I think we're not just missing the political momentum, I think we're missing the spiritual momentum. We're supposed to be dealing with a recovery, Reverend. Who knows more about recovery than your folk who've been in recovery from drugs and alcohol, from loss, mourning, grieving? Who knows more about recovery than Reverend Brown and the people he puts his hands on every day? So the genius that we need is actually in the hands and the hearts of people you work with. And we need to do a better job of lifting you up and reflecting back to you what you're about. Now, that's cold comfort if you walk out of here not belonging to something. And I will say to the young organizers, you're in a world now where people want to be connected. It's a lot of social media that's more media than social. People can't hug a pixel. So if you do all this work to get people in a room, definitely hit them up for some money. And y'all should write some checks, because I'm tired of people talking about this new emerging majority and not investing in it. They talk about this new emerging majority, the young people and the single women and the Latinos and the blacks and the Asians and whatever, and they give all the money to the same. They write their big checks. They write their big check to the other group. So you should definitely do that. But I think we got to have a different ethic now. We can't send people home. See, I get paranoid now, you know. That could have been anything. So I was glad I didn't duck, be on YouTube. You work in the White House long enough. Luckily, I was just there for 6 months. So, where was I? Checks. Why do you write the big checks to the groups that are going to keep doing what they've been doing and write the little checks to the people who try to make a real difference? So you're right to ask people for their, the financial capital, Reverend. But it's that intellectual and social capital that's the real wealth in the room. And we've got to stop letting people come together physically and then go home and be alone. People got to be signed up. they have all kinds of technologies now, small circle, you know this stuff, but we don't apply it. We talk about it, but we don't do it. So you shouldn't leave here by yourself. And the organizer, you should walk over to her and grab her hand before she gets out of here. And, yeah, all right, so. Last question.
Mr. Jones, my name is Dwight Smith, and I'm here with some of my colleagues from the Choral Fellows Program in Public Affairs. And you put out a call to that deeper patriotism and to governance. And so my question is, how do you start that conversation across cultures, across beliefs, and across very different socializations that a lot of our young people are coming from? So what's your admonition to us to even get that conversation started?
Well, first of all, I would say that when I talk about preparing to govern, I don't just mean prepare to govern politically. I mean prepare to govern yourself, to govern your affairs, to govern the way that you show up in the world. That said, your generation in particular, I don't think you guys know who you are. I don't mean to offend anybody much. But I don't think you guys read the memo. How you have you have a better conversation across cultures than any American generation ever already. Okay? I know you get frustrated with each other, but look, y'all are the most diverse generation of Americans we've ever had. Y'all make up genders. I mean, hey, it's just mind-blowing. It's like, we're just not diverse enough. Let's come up with some more stuff to confuse these old people with. I mean, you just go, So, I'm not mad at you. I'm just confused most of it, but I'm impressed, all right, by what you're able to pull off. So, the challenge that you guys have is that you're the first generation in human history that you actually know, don't get big-headed now, but you actually know some things more and better than your parents. This creates a problem for you guys. What do I mean? I mean, for a couple of million years, older people knew stuff and taught younger people, right? So an older person would say, we're going to go and milk the cow. And a younger person would say, we're going to milk the cow. You say, yes. You see. If you were older, you had some self-esteem, you see. Yes. We're going to milk the cow. You say, oh, good. And then this young, small person would go, and they would try to milk the cow with their foot or something. He's like, no. We milk the cow with our hands, son. He said, oh, the hands, you see. Imparting wisdom. And you had self-esteem. Then you guys came along. And your whole life it's been, baby, can you come help me with this? I'm trying to program the VCR. Baby, can you help me with my computer? The screen did something. And since you're this big, you're like, oh. So you're confused and we're confused. So you guys know stuff that we don't know. We know stuff that you don't know. We don't know how to talk to each other. We would like to imagine that something we've gone through is worth something. And at the same time, the opportunity here for you guys is unbelievable. You're the biggest generation of Americans we've had ever, meaning you're bigger than the baby boomers. The baby boomers came along 1959, when they were still kind of little. The country was boring as heck. Am I wrong? Anybody around 1959? Country looked like Leave It to Beaver? Unless you were black and then it was Left Out Beaver, but you know what I'm saying. Boring, boring, boring. 1959. 10 years later, 1969, huge, colorful, civil rights, women's rights, peace, flower power, rock and roll, R&B, Motown, everything in the Did we get a new constitution? New generation. Big generation. Hit the scene. Changed everything. Changed everything. You guys are bigger than the baby boomers. Right? You're more diverse. You got the wisdom of all people. You have more and better technology on your person. You got one of these? Anybody got one of these? More and better computing power in my hand on your person than the whole U.S. government had when it put a man on the moon. Each and every one of you is a walking technological superpower. The question I have for you is, when are you guys going to stop using these things as toys and use them as tools to make a difference? That's my question to you. You want to get your generation together? 2 words: jobs and debt. That's your conversation with everybody. You're in school, good for you. You're going to leave, you graduate off a cliff. You graduate off a cliff into the worst economy since the Great Depression with a ton of debt. And it's wrong. It's a moral disgrace. We say, we can't afford, Reverend, what do they say? We can't afford to give these kids scholarships. No, you can't afford not to give these kids scholarships. Huh? Can't afford to give these kids jobs. No, you can't afford not to. And if you're just, don't worry about all, you guys manage the race, don't ask me about how to deal with the race stuff because our generation blew it. You guys know how better than anybody in the world how to talk across these different categories when you want to. You got better tools to do it. You haven't picked the right subject. The right subject is jobs and debt. Nobody wants to put money in your pocket for income, but they all want to take money out of your pocket for student loans and credit cards and everything else. You put an end to that, you change America. Thank you very much.